Hebron has a lot of history behind it. It was one of the first communities settled in Denton County.
It's important to know the history of what you're part of, just to understand the legacy that's been set before.
The original name of the high school was North Carrollton High School, and that was in the early to mid 90s when the land was purchased and the school board had come to the conclusion, yes, we're going to build a high school in North Carrollton.
Well, North Carrollton was expanding as fast as just about any area around. And people would think, well, what do we care about? You know, that's Carrollton, or that's the Colony, or that's Plano. Well, that's LISD.
The people in Carrollton really wanted to have a new school over closer because their kids were all having to be bused over to the Colony.
And so we began looking for sites back, in the 80s. But North Carrollton was hard to find the land because Carrollton was growing. Initially, they were growing faster than us.
Well, as this progressed, Carrollton Farmers Branch was also building a high school, and it was called Carrollton North.
The problem is the fire chief from Carrollton came and talked to us
and said, we have a little bit of a problem if we get a 911 call. Are we going to Carrollton North or are we going to North Carrollton? Would both school districts consider renaming their high school? The school board said yes, they would consider doing that, which our group was in favor of because we wanted a more representative of the entire area. And the school board came up with two names that they presented, and the two names were either East Side, because I was on the east side of the school district, or West View, because it does sit on a little bit of bluff and it looks to the west. Our group, the North Carrollton Community and Education Council, felt that those two names were rather nondescript, so we decided that we would come up with an alternative. We did our history, and one of the first high schools in Denton County on record that we know of was across from the old Hebron Baptist Church, and it was in the late 1880s, early 1890s, and it was called Hebron School.
Hebron has a lot of history behind it. It was one of the first communities settled in Denton County. I think they had their own post office, they had their elementary school, they had a lot of businesses.
So there actually had been at one time a Hebron High School before Hebron High School. At that time it was the Hebron School District.
The word Hebron biblically means alliance. We were of the firm belief that we needed a more robust name that included all students, not just the North Carrollton students, as we have students from West Plano, South Frisco, part of the Colony, East Lewisville, Carrollton, and what's left of Hebron. So we went to the school board, and by unanimous vote, they opted to change the name from North Carrollton High School to Hebron High School.
It was important to them to continue the name of Hebron, and I think it was only right to name it Hebron High School.
The community was very excited. They fought really hard. I can remember some of the forefront people just fought really hard to get this school built.
So I guess even before the school opened, the school was already being built, and while it was being built, they started coming to Arbor Creek and asking people to vote on colors, vote on the mascot.
When I walked into the building and I noticed that there was a lot of green and gold around, and I asked, well, now what are the school colors?
They had started construction and had to pick colors before we had voted on the colors, and so it was just the builder's green. It was green everything. It was green hallways, it was green bathrooms, green lockers, green tile, green walls, green everything.
But in voting, blue won, blue, black, and silver. Actually, Arbor Creek even changed their colors at that point to match with Hebron, so it was a fun change. Everything wasn't matching at that school either, but I think we got used to the green hallways and we were just like, hey, it's the color of the school, but our spirit's blue, silver, and black.
You know, it was at that time that actually Castle Hills was just starting to sort of be built. And so, I mean, there was talk of, Should it be the Dragons? Should it be the Knights? Should it be something, sort of related to Castle Hills area? But, the kids voted and they picked the Hawks.
Kids picked the Hawks as their mascot, which that had a nice ring to it too, Hebron Hawks.
When we bought that property, of course, there's 70 acres in that property, and it's the largest property that we have for a high school.
We are Hebron High School on Plano Parkway in Carrollton, Texas, in Lewisville ISD. It's impossible to find us.
I went to find this school, and of course, there's nothing but fields out here. There was nothing out here. Couldn't find it the first time I tried. And I'm like, oh well.
If you walked out the back of Hebron, you looked out, you thought you're out in Decatur or something. I mean, it was just this flat running land. You had prairies out here, you had cows out here grazing, and horse ranch right next to you. I mean, you felt like you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
I can remember running cross country just literally right across the street. We would go work out, and it was just all fields. And so I think that people were excited for the opportunity of what it could be.
And we had 498 kids when we opened.
Like literally everybody knew of everybody or knew everyone, and
You walked in the cafeteria, everyone knew you. Everyone knew everyone back then.
I had a class with 4 kids in it. 4 kids. I lined them up on the front row, 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, hey, if y'all going to be absent on the same day, so I get a period off.
We had one sophomore boy who must have been older, but he could drive. And so we had this huge multiple parking lots around Hebron High School for students, and we had one car in the entire parking lot. And I remember every day I'd pull in and go, oh, he's here today.
The first year or two, as we were, trying to get established and try to get things opened, people didn't know, Hebron.
People just didn't know how to pronounce us.
Hebron, what is that? What's Hebron?
They always say Point Hebron. Well, it wasn't Point Hebron, it was Point Hebron, it was Point Hebron, and we had to keep correcting them because they had no idea who Hebron was or where we were from.
Well, when we started out, we didn't win many games in any sport.
That was kind of hard for my ego to take. And to be honest, I think every coach would tell you, we had to check our egos at the door.
Starting out and playing a varsity schedule, junior, sophomores, and freshmen, we went 0-10. I mean, most points we ever scored in a game was 7. I mean, it was a struggle.
I think we got beat like 60-0 the first week. The second week we're playing Creekview, and we're down like 50-0 late in the fourth quarter. We score a touchdown with a few seconds to go, and you'd have thought we won the Super Bowl. Kids were running around, high-fiving, almost dogpiling.
For volleyball and football specifically, we both had 0-10 seasons our first varsity season. And I can remember Steve Stone was the one who told us that, didn't we come here to build a program or did we want a ready-made? And I'm like, well, right now I want a ready-made because I'm tired of losing. But okay, so we came here to build.
But after going 0-10, I know everybody talks about, what did bring the wood? How did that appear? What came from that?
There's some debate on who really got that started. Was it Sam Harrison? Was it Brian Brazel?
In 1999, our first scrimmage was against the Joshua Owls, and we went over there and got absolutely throttled. I mean, they hit us in the mouth, and coaches didn't like it. The players didn't seem to care, and went home that weekend and was watching college football, and one of the commentators had made the comment after a big hit, man, he really just laid the wood. He brought the wood. And it got me to thinking, my goodness, well, I need to bring that to the kids. Maybe I can get these kids to quit being so soft. So the next day at practice, I went in and brought the kids up and said, guys, y'all need to bring the wood. Y'all need to lay the wood. Well, as fate would have it, 2 players, Charles Hasley and Brandon McCain, one of our receivers and quarterbacks, they went home that night and got a fence picket, and they painted on there, and they painted Bring the Wood and put their graduating year on there.
And they brought it up, say, hey, Coach, can we take this to the game? So they started taking it to all the freshman games. And
before every game, I would holler at them, what are you going to bring? And they'd say the wood, and kids would hold the stick up and things like that. It kind of took on a life of its own.
And our freshmen actually went 4-1 in district and were part of the district champion, I guess, at a freshman level.
And it just kind of became our mantra. The parents really took it on. The football team really took it on. Our whole student body took it on.
The symbolism is there that we were going to be competitive, and if you were going to play us, it was going to be a hard-fought game.
Even though, lots of people don't really know where it came from, it kind of became the battle cry of Hebron High School.
And we built off of that first group and built the foundation and moved forward and had some success, I mean, really, really quick.
It took those 2 or 3 years getting beat on the school board to lay the groundwork to where the school board finally flipped on us.
Things were changing quick. Like we would go from losing to winning, and we were doing that in every sport.
Well, we had probably have to start first with our volleyball team and how successful they've been.
I remember looking back at our first state title in '04, and at the time it seemed like it took us forever to build that, but in reality it really wasn't that long. It took 4 years. I remember turning around and so much of the staff was in those stands, and so much of the community. I had people coming up to us at the mall in San Marcos, and they were just like, we don't have any kids that go to the school, but we live in the community and we came to support. And I think that's when I realized how important that state title was. It wasn't just about our program or even the school, but it was about the entire community.
And I think that's just kind of carried on, and then when we were able to be fortunate to win a state championship in 2005, just after 6 years of varsity ball, I think that was one of the proudest moments I had, just from seeing that, of just seeing, we're starting to arrive as a school.
I think everybody knows where Hebron is now. Yeah.
I guess you would say it was the first crown jewel. When people began to just call them Hebron, you knew that we had made it to the pinnacle of being recognized as a powerhouse in the Metroplex.
I can just remember how many things that happened. And wrestling, I mean, kids winning state championships. Then, like, the next year after I graduated, like, we have girls going to state and cross country. And so you just kind of see that whole thing, like, how fast it got momentum going behind it. And it's kind of like people talk about snowballs. It's like, it might start off small, but that thing starts going.
4 out of my 9 years, we've won state in volleyball, which is just ridiculous. And, and there was a 3-year run where we were state champs for 3 years in a row, which is just unheard of as well.
In that 20 years, the number of state championships, not just volleyball, but cross country and soccer, that was probably the soccer championship was actually one of the, more exciting soccer championships I'd ever seen.
Fine arts and band and our academics, we're stand out in all of those areas. We don't just have one area where we're really, really strong as a campus.
You go watch our musicals at our school the kids put on. It's just something to really be proud of, just to see how much talent and just the pride that there is in this school. And everybody has their pride in their programs, our ag deck teams. And I'm not trying to sound like I have trying to boast everybody up, but there's just so much to be proud of with this school.
The band just really had some amazing performances down three times in a row at state marching, and always ended up as the silver medalist.
That athletics and fine arts, all those things are a part of the academic process. Everything that you're doing is something that is important. And the two principals we've had up to this point, Hugh Jones and Scot Finch, great men that just really took pride in being Hebron Hawks.
None of that happens without great teachers, without great coaches and sponsors and band directors. And
I think just all of that together, which comes to that last thing, which is to bring the wood. And even though bring the wood is kind of a football thing, I think it's just a mindset that we have here at Hebron High School overall, which is we're going to be the best and we're going to do the best, and whatever it may be, people are going to know Hebron High School is somebody you got to contend with. And I think that's what makes me most proud, because it is definitely a special place.
The opportunity that we got to open this school and then to take it like we have, and I say we because not one person does this job.
Here, we are one big family that pulls for each other. It's that kind of culture, and that's what one thing that makes Hebron really cool is the fact that every kid pulls for the other kids.
There's a place for every family to belong when they come to Hebron High School, because we have so much diversity. So I tell people there's a place for you always if you decide to come to Hebron High School, because we have so much diversity.
You go to Lewisville, they have City Hall. You go to Flower Mound, they have City Hall. Hebron doesn't have that. I don't even know if it has its own zip code. And so in my mind, our campus has to be Town Hall. And I love that it's a comfortable place for families and students to want to be here, that they want to show up and they want to support each other and celebrate who we are.
The minute you engage with students or faculty at Hebron, you automatically know that there's this inclusivity. There's kids from all different walks of life and cultures, and they're all interacting with each other. And it's so unique. I've never seen that in any other school.
Our kids accept that, and they accept each other, and I just love that. They're just good kids from good families, and it's a lot of fun.
And when you look back on it, it's really actually pretty humbling that I would be able to come here to such a great school with such great people and be the principal of it.
For me, it's a family deal. Both of my boys are Hebron Hawks. My wife has been here for 19 years as a math teacher. We're Hebron Hawks. I got a big blue truck. I bleed blue, black, and silver. It's been a place where my kids grew up, so it's really special.
It's just been fun, and I'm glad that I not just call Hebron High School the place I work, but it's my home.
It's really been a wonderful place to work, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
If I was going to point to any point in my career, it would be those years that I spent at Hebron. When you hear people talk about what they want schools in America to look like and be like, I think Hebron really represents that as an example for everybody to look at.
This school had shown so much success over the last 20 years, and I take incredible responsibility in being charged with maintaining and sustaining that success.
It's a phenomenal place, and it's because of the people. It's a phenomenal place.
It's a proud school that has a proud legacy, and it's only been 20 years, so I can't wait to see what the next 20 years brings.
I mean, heart pride is something that you can feel, especially from the people that have been here.
That's what it's about. It's a school culture. It's pride in your school, your program, and the faculty and staff.
Really what I think it is a culture of excellence and honesty and kindness, and I'm always proud to be a Hebron Hawk for that reason.
As a coach, we want to win every game. And a lot of times we make it about us. But in reality, it's about these kids, whether they were the 2002 kids or the 2019 kids. Every one of them is giving everything they've got to the school, to this program. So as much as we want to make it about the coaches and the faculty, it's really about those students that walk the hall, and we don't ever want to lose sight of that.
That's heart pride never dies.